Welcome to Mom Brain, where we cover topics such as stages of ages, parenting through grief, letting adult kids be adult, pregnancy, stress management, maintaining yourself, sex life after kids, and more.
Today we have Karlynn with us as a first-time podcast guest, and we're grateful that you picked us to be your first time. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Today we're gonna be talking about work and mom life balance.
Okay.
Tell our listeners a little bit about how your journey began.
Yeah. I grew up knowing that you go to work 9 to 5 and that's just, what it was.
Mhm.
So after I finished school, I got a job with the local government and I was like, cool, this would be a great place to be long term, it's job security, all of that. And, as I don't know, was there almost 10 years and I started feeling like this is not um what I want to do. And I was noticing, after when having kids, so okay, we need a little extra money. How can I make extra money? So I started coaching, doing like one volleyball training session here, one there, just to kind of add extra money for daycare or groceries, diapers, whatever it was, and it was helping. And then all of a sudden, I started to get more people, and I was like, okay, this is starting to become a thing. So I was like, all right, I can make it work. I can work full time. I can, add a couple more sessions on the weekends, whatever it might be. And then it got to be more of a thing. And I was like, all right, now I'm, making, close to $1,000 a month doing this, but is it worth, you know, do I need to stay with my current job? Is it going to be something big? Um, it wasn't anything big. It kind of died down a little bit, and so I was like, all right, stuck with this um, government job. It's working, it's paying the bills, it's fine. And then I wanted to do more with coaching, um, and I felt being a personal trainer would definitely help volleyball coaching. Got certified, and then people started asking me to do personal training. I was like, okay, yeah, I can, I can do that. So I got a couple clients, started helping out women and moms with their fitness, because it helped me. After having
Right.
kids, I was like, gosh, now I don't know. I'm taking care of this kid, and I have to adjust to being a new mom, and my new body feels weird. And
Yeah.
so I drifted to fitness. I knew playing volleyball, through college that it was kind of my escape. Like I could do exercise and kind of forget about what was going on
Yeah.
outside of
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I said, all right, let's get back into fitness, and I did. And then with the certification, I was able to help moms do the same thing, and it just kind of grew. Last year, or not last year, 2022. I was to a point where I couldn't take on any more clients unless I quit my full-time job. Um, and I talked to my husband. I was like, look, this is what's happening. How do you feel about me leaving this job security, full-time job, benefits, retirement, all of that?
Yeah.
And he was pretty scared about it. He's like, well, what happens if you lose clients? Like, what happens? I was like, the way I have it set up is that, people are signed up and they're signed up for long term, and I'm always trying to gain more people. So I had to really get him to trust that, I could make this work. And so I did. I took a leap October of 2022, took a month off. I had some time, so I took a month off just to see what it felt like, if I
Yeah.
actually wanted to do it. And I enjoyed it. It was so nice to have my own schedule and be able to pick up the kids, help them with homework, and not feel like, oh, I got to divide myself. I can't see the kids more than like 2 hours a day. This was awesome. Like it was like the perfect schedule. So I decided to just give up the full time job security and work for myself. And to be honest, it was scary. Like, I'm like, okay, what if this doesn't work? Do I go back? What are people going to say to me if I go back?
Yeah.
Like, so, it's been a wild ride. So I completed my first full year last year. Um, I'd say it was a learning year, because
Yes.
I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. I failed a little bit, but was able to bounce back. And so this year I feel like, okay, I learned, when busy season is, when it's not busy, so I can kind of, gauge how I bring in clients that way, and
Yeah.
just make it feel more of what I want it to be, instead of, I guess, instead of the business running me, I'm running the business. And so it feels better this year. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. No, I get all of that. So I was the last time I worked for somebody else, it was, I think, 2020. COVID hit, and like, I worked at a restaurant, but they were able to kind of like keep some of us there,
Right.
uh, and like paid us like $20 an hour because they were only limited amounts of us. Hey, if you want to come in and like run like to goes, they only did to go. So nobody was allowed in the restaurant unless you worked there. So they're able to do something to kind of keep some of their employees,
Right.
um, and still like pay you in a way that was like you could keep living.
Yeah.
um, so that was the last time because they opened back up inside and everything, and I went in and I was just like, I don't really feel safe because I wasn't a huge stickler about like the shot and everything like that. I didn't get it, personal preference, whatever.
Right.
But there was just certain things that people weren't doing. Like people would, and I mean like younger college kids who I know were going out doing whatever, would come back to the little bar that I worked at and just be like all in my face. And I'm like, hey, first of all, uh, there wasn't any like really rules or mandates for safety by the owner at that time. And I was just like, I don't like this. Like, I have kids to go home to.
Right.
It just made me uncomfortable. So I was like, hey, you know what? My husband was like, just quit. And I was like, just quit? Like, what do you mean? Because first of all,
Right.
I've been working since I was 14. What do you mean quit? Like,
Right.
what does that mean? And then I mean, this was it wasn't even really a full-time job. So I didn't have like benefits and all that anyway. So, it was kind of like, okay, what am I losing? Well, I'm losing that stability because I know what I have coming in at this time. And then it, I quit and I found little odd things to do. I went back to college. I started writing books. I just like started finding things to
Mhm.
do. And it was also things I was passionate about. And I was like, this is great, but I understand the slow startup and making mistakes because in 2022, we opened a commercial cleaning business. I had one client the first year, really. One client up until probably about June of last year. So the first like year and a half, we had one client, which made a fair amount of income because it's a commercial client, so it's not just like cleaning a house.
Right. Right.
Um, but I do all the back end, which imagine I'm sure from like working for somebody to going to doing like all the stuff yourself is like,
Yes. Yeah.
well, first of all, now I have to like really manage these finances, and I already wasn't great at that anyway. I'm like, so now it's a lot, but now I'm in my second year. I'm doing my own business taxes. I do all the payroll. I do all the admin stuff myself. So it's nice. And it was kind of nice to have a little slow of a start so that I didn't have like tons of clients and I'm figuring all this stuff out.
Right.
Because I also have a coaching business as well. And so I completely understand the like trial and error year.
Yeah.
And it's liberating to be able like I was never almost never. I'll say I was able to stay home with my younger kids maybe like a year, excuse me, when we lived on a military base. And so, you know, my husband at the time, he made well, we were covered, the whole family insurance and everything like that, things were fine. Um, but even then I didn't know how to manage money. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm able to be home with the kids, but I'm still young and dumb and trying to figure things out. Which, I don't think that being in my 20s, it would have been a good idea for me to own a business because I was still making stupid decisions and I wasn't managing money well. So like that business may have crashed just because of my decision making, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about say like because you may have been a much more put together person in your 20s. How do you kind of compare, I guess, say if you would have started a business in your 20s, um, as to being a little bit older and being able to say, hey, I know a little bit more about life.
I feel like starting in my 20s probably wouldn't have been a good idea just because I was more focused on me and making sure and doing stuff I wanted to do. I wasn't like you, I wasn't really focusing on money. If I had money, cool, I'd go do something with it. And, it wasn't like a second thought, oh, I need to set aside this money for an investment or something like that. So I feel like now I have a better understanding, especially more understanding of how other people think, whereas when I was in my 20s I
Yeah.
didn't know what people were thinking. Like could care less what people were
Right.
thinking.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I would tell that person, it's good to have ideas, keep the ideas going, and then slowly build on those ideas. And by the time when you're really ready and really have an understanding of the finances and the logistics and all of the stuff that goes into it, then it'd probably be a good time to start. But yeah, my 20s were not time to start a business.
So Cardi B said, I was watching something. She was like, everybody should take a business class.
Yes.
She said, I never took a business class and I wish that I had going into
Yep.
the business, the industry that I'm in. Every Even if you don't plan on running a business or owning a
Right.
business, even if you just plan to work for somebody, learn about business because realistically, there's no scenario where it's going to negatively affect you. You know what I mean? Even if
Yeah,
you work for
100%.
someone else, learning about business is beneficial. Um, and even like I said, even if you don't start your own business,
Right.
there's certain aspects of learning about business that you can use in your home. So how you manage your funds, how you run your household.
Right.
I think that it's super important. It's just like learning about how to take care of your body. You
Yeah.
might not become a fitness coach, but you're gonna know how to take care of your body, you know?
Exactly. Like I feel that there's two things like I try to teach my kids is knowing about their bodies, just moving their body, how their body works. And
Yeah,
then recently I decided, you know what, you guys are going to do a little small business. I'm going to help you, at least so you know how business works, how money works, how money comes in, how money goes out.
I love
Um,
that. Yeah.
stuff like that, because I feel like I started off with business. I didn't start a business at first, but it was kind of nice to know what was going on for these places that I was working at. Like, if you work
Yeah.
in a retail store, why are the managers doing this?
Yeah.
And why is it structured that way? So yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Everybody should take a business class.
How would you compare your typical day to day from when you were working for someone else as opposed as in comparison to working for yourself now and being able to determine your own day?
um, Working for someone else, my day was pretty much planned for me. So, I get up, go to work, come home and, have a couple hours to maybe hang out with the kids or help them with homework, get dinner ready. Whereas now, I schedule my day. I may work a couple hours, then go home, eat lunch, do some laundry, get some stuff done around the house, then go do some more work for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Take care of things in the middle of the day. Whereas, if you work 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, which I worked, by the time 5 o'clock comes around, everything is closing. You
Yeah.
can't do business. You're trying to schedule it within your lunch hour to
Yeah.
go like to doctor's appointments or things like that. And now I'm like, oh, okay, I have a chunk of time between, 1 and 2. I can take my kid to the doctor or whatever it might be. So it's definitely more flexible. It's less stressful. Um, that I can just kind of plan my clients or, use my set aside chunks for the day to do other
Yeah.
stuff. Whereas before I couldn't, it was basically I go to work 8 to 5, I need to have to take a vacation day or use sick time to go do some of those things. So
Yeah. How have you noticed, or have you noticed a significant change in the relationship between you and your household now that you are able to kind of give more of yourself into it?
definitely improvement with my kids. Because before I'd drop them off at school and then see them after school. Um, I'm able to talk to them more, have more conversations with them, be more present when they're doing things.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and then just me and my husband are able to see each other a little bit more often, instead of just kind of in passing or, at the dinner table where the kids are talking. It's kind of hard to just have conversations.
yeah.
So it's definitely had a huge impact. I feel like my kids are benefiting more. My first two kids, I worked all the time. Like I was working 8 to 5. My third, COVID hit, and so she got to see me a little bit more because they allowed us to work from home a little bit.
Oh,
And
okay.
um, but I mean, I was still on the computer, so I wasn't really 100% hanging out
Yeah,
with her. And with my fourth, I think I was there a year and a half after she was born, and then I left. And now I get to see her all the time and watch her grow up and do all the things. And I think it's definitely, enhanced the relationship with my kids and just
yeah,
made things a lot better.
yeah. I've so naturally, more kids you have, the more different versions of you those kids see, right?
Right.
Especially if you have kids when you're younger. Um, I've been told by my 20, she'll be 21 this year, and I've been told by her, she'll make comments about my 8-year-old. If that would have been me, I would have got my mouth popped and I would have gotten in so much more trouble and all these kind of things. And we have a great relationship, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But she does make those comments because I am more lenient on my 8-year-old, but
Yeah.
I also have been with my 8-year-old so much more than I was
Right.
able to be with my older kids, and working full time. I was a single mom for a long time, just all these stressors,
Yeah.
and it doesn't kind of like excuse being maybe harder on other kids because you're stressed out, right? But it's just kind of a natural thing that happens sometimes. We don't even realize it, you
Hmm.
know. Do you think that um I don't let me see. Did you tell me, did we talk about the age of the kids? Yeah. So yours are a good bit younger than mine, but
Yeah.
there's still gaps, 9,
Hmm.
7,
Yeah.
So I imagine that especially working a lot less outside of the home with the smallest one as opposed to the first two, they've gotten different versions of you too.
Mhm.
How do you think your parenting has changed, if any, with you being in the home more and being able to kind of dictate your own day and schedule rather than having to go be away and work for somebody else in an environment that you necessarily can't control? how do you think, if so, those relationships have changed or your parenting styles have changed?
I think it's a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
I'm able to be like, well, they're kids. They're gonna be loud. They're going to make a mess, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was going to work all the time, I come home, I'm tired, I'm stressed. Coming home to a messy house was just like, oh my gosh, this house is a mess. Like I can't
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah.
The noise, it's like you're overstimulated and you want to come to home and just decompress and relax and not have and just silence sometimes just
Yeah.
feels awesome to be in. And now, so it's like, oh, okay, yeah, the kids are making noise, whatever. I can tune it out and go do something else because I don't have that outside stressor of being at work. So I feel it's definitely more relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was working, still working. So my 8-year-old, so he'll be 9 actually next week.
Yeah.
So he was a toddler. And there would be times where I would come home and I didn't even realize that I was doing this. I'd come home and I'd be like, why is the little one still up? I just want to relax.
Right.
Not even thinking of, oh, like this little one is probably looking at me like, why doesn't my mom want to be around? Like I didn't even do anything. She hasn't
Right.
been here yet. Because
Yeah.
most of the time we as humans don't look at things through the lens of another person
No.
until something happens and we're like, oh, I need to see their perspective.
Mhm.
But my husband pointed it out to me. He was like, I try to, because I was working in the afternoon, so I get home at like 9 o'clock at night. Well, most of the time the kids have been at school, so it's not like they've been home all day and I haven't even hardly got to see anybody before I go to work.
Yeah.
And then I and then I was my oldest daughter, I think she was working, but she couldn't drive. So I'd go to work and then I'd have to stay up to take her to work and also be up to pick her up from work. She got off at like midnight, 1 a.m. sometimes. So, I'm like, I'm already tired when I come home from work. No one's
Yeah.
seen me all day because we've had different schedules. And then I come in and I'm just like, ah.
Right.
And he would point it out, or he pointed out to me, and I'm like, oh God, like I didn't even realize that I was doing that, but I was so tired and stressed out that I'm coming home and everybody else is like, oh hey, and I'm like, get away. And I feel horrible. I feel horrible about it now, and that was years ago. But I I I I definitely I definitely get it. I like it, it's a blessing to be able to work for yourself and
Yes.
have it beneficial, because like you said, that first trial years, whew, I make about double what I made that first year, and now I'm able to like help. I make sure we stay stocked in toilet paper, paper towels, all the hygiene stuff, and that feels really good to me because there was a time where we were like tight on money, when I first quit and everything like that. And so it's just as a mom and a wife too, it's nice to be able to help take care of the man who takes care of
Everything.
sometimes everything financially.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I take pride in the fact that I can contribute to certain things. And then I can also contribute emotionally in a positive way.
Yeah.
You know? Um,
Yeah. I feel like I know. And it was something really simple. Like my kids went to their grandparents' house and I asked my husband, hey, do you want to go for ice cream? And he was like, yeah, sure. He's like, okay. And I was like, okay, I'm buying. And it felt really good to be able to treat him for ice cream. And I know this it's like the smallest thing, but I was like, I was able to treat him for ice cream and not think twice
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So, or like my kids, we went to the store and I had extra change. And I was like, all right, you guys can each have, $5. Here you go. And normally I'm like, okay, let me save this 20 bucks for gas or whatever I need.
Yeah.
or later. And I was like, cool, I was able to just, make their day by giving them some money. So
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yep.
definitely those little things make a huge, like, and they're small, but for me it was like, yes, I could do it.
Yeah, yeah. It because and again, there's nothing wrong with being a mom who works full time, if
Right,
that's what you need to do. There's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom and your partner making, paying the bills. Nothing wrong with that if that dynamic works for you.
right.
But for us, because we are kind of stay-at-home moms, we also run our own businesses, and
Yeah.
we're able to do both of them pretty successfully. It's w- if you could give moms who are thinking, who are working for someone else, who hate it, or they're okay with it, but they really have this passion and they want to be their own boss, what one pointer would you give them for work-life balance, whether it be transitioning into being independent or working for someone else and not really knowing how to make it balance out in a healthy way?
I mean, I could give tips for both, and
Okay.
transitioning to working for yourself, like, set clear boundaries. I mean, that goes for when you're working for somebody else.
Yeah.
Don't, if you don't want to work after hours, or there's a certain block of time that you just want for yourself, then make that time for yourself. Don't give in.
Yeah.
Don't worry about, well, if I don't take this person, I may not get another person, so I'm just gonna suck
Mm,
it and do it. Um, I feel like you have to set those boundaries. The money will come, and the people that want to work with you will work within your set time limits. And then I would say, don't be scared. It's scary, but you kind of have to have faith over fear in all of
yeah.
this, because if this is something you really want to do and you want to make it work, for those that are trying to transition out, plan it. Don't just jump onto it and not have a plan, but plan it out. Make a slow exit. Test the waters, take some time off, test the waters, see if it's something that's going to fit. But don't sell yourself short because you're scared of what might not happen, when there's so much good that could happen. So
Yeah, I think that's absolutely great advice. Absolutely. You know, yesterday, so I had meetings all day Tuesday, today's Thursday, right? All day
yeah,
Tuesday and Wednesday. And I rescheduled Tuesday. I was just tired. And then Wednesday, I was like, gosh, I don't want to do this to people again, but I'm tired. And I don't have the energy to put out. So I rescheduled again. And here we are. And I'm
yes,
really grateful that your willingness to work with me. And even though, podcasting is more of a hobby, but I try to respect people's time because I know we're
yeah,
all busy. And even if you're just sitting at home on your couch and you're not busy, I still want to try to respect your time. So I appreciate your willingness to work with me. But, you know, I- that's a really good advice because there will be times where you're like, I'm tired. But like you said, well, I don't want to miss this client. I need to make this money. I have this budget I need to meet. And sometimes you just gotta say no. I'm learning this still in my commercial cleaning business
yeah,
because I don't I prefer to do commercial property, right?
right,
Airbnbs is the closest thing I really want to do to residentials. Um, I can do a commercial property. I can go spend 5, 6 hours. Bam, I'm done for the week. You
right,
know, um, and that's just really what I want to do. Um,
yeah,
but there's people, a fair amount of people who will call or email or text and say, "Hey, I I I don't know who put this card here, but somebody put one of my business cards in a church, that's like 30 minutes away from me. And I've had multiple people request my services that way. So I'm like, hey, I'm grateful. I don't know who it was, but I'm very grateful for you doing that. But there's times where I've even been like, I don't really, this isn't really what I want to do, but I'm
Hmm.
also still, this is only, we're going into our third fiscal year. And it's like, I haven't been doing this 10 years and make $50,000 a month to where I'm like, or $20,000 a month to where I'm like, okay, I can miss it. And my husband is like, if it's not what you want to do, like you make enough to where it's not going to hurt you. That $150 once a month or whatever, it's not going to make a difference. You
Yeah.
have to you have to balance yourself. You have to be willing to say, I can't take everything that comes at my way. And if I'm tired today, then I need to take care of my body and not force myself to do this. There's
Right.
a balance between your reputation and your health. I
Yes.
want to have this reputation where if people call and need my services, I'm there for them and I'm good at what I do. But your health also has to be a priority in that balance too. So I think those are really good pointers.
Yeah, and being a mom, you've got to set time for your kids. I mean, your kids are still wanting to be with you
Yeah.
and wanting your attention. So, you have to have those boundaries so they get part of you too. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
I've got adult and teenage children who will literally still come in the bathroom with me. Like, hey, I mean, so like, yeah, they want to be around you. Like,
Right.
okay. All right. So yeah, and then it's been a really nice opportunity that the commercial business too, because my oldest son works for me, and that's
Oh,
his
that's cool.
his full-time job. Yeah, so it's nice too to be able to give that opportunity to your adult and
Yeah,
teenage kids,
yeah, yeah.
um, because it's also how my teenagers make their allowance, you know,
Hey,
um,
yeah. And they're
going,
learning too. They're learning about business. They're learning about how to run a business.
yep,
So, it's some valuable skills are coming from that. So that's
yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and my, and this may change because he'll be 24, he's only 24, so it may change,
Yeah.
but, it's also an opportunity to build this business up and pass it down. Or,
Yes.
I've talked to both my oldest, "Hey, I wanna sit down with you and I wanna teach you about business management." My oldest daughter, she's in school for psychology and she wants to open her own practice. And cool. It's not a cleaning business, it's not a life coaching business, but it's the basic components of business, and I can
Hmm.
absolutely teach you about that.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, so being a mom and taking that leap to say, "Hey, I have this thing I wanna do, and I'm gonna go do this thing." It's also an opportunity for bonding with your kids
Hmm.
and, like you said, for teaching them things and potentially even if they don't take over your business one day,
Right.
they'll have the knowledge and the skills that they don't have to work for somebody else because they've learned how to work for themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like it gives them courage and determination to do stuff
Mhm,
that's hard.
mhm,
My daughter plays the flute, and I know the other day she was like, I don't know how to play the song. I can't figure it out. I was like, look, you're not going to be perfect at it the first
right.
time. I wasn't perfect at running a business. I'm still not perfect at it. I make mistakes all the time. But the important thing is you learn from these things. And, if I can do something that's crazy hard and scary, then I'm pretty sure you can do it. And, the world's not going to end if you
Mhm,
mess up. So,
yeah, yep. Well, is there anything else that you would like to, say or discuss before we head out?
no, I think that's it. My kids are probably waiting for me so we can get
Mhm.
ready for the day. So yeah, it was really this was nice.
Yeah.
Definitely have to do more of these.
Absolutely. I have a kind of a habit of bringing people back more than once. So you're absolutely welcome to be one of those people.
Okay.
And then if you guys, if you, I have completely the wrong background. Oh well, it's just advertisement for my other podcast. So
I think I'm supposed to be signed up for your other podcast too. So
that's where I was getting, and I was like, oh, that's the background. Okay. Well, if you guys listen to just the Who of Us podcast, or even if you don't and you would like to hear more from Karlynn, then she actually will be on that podcast too. So so be on the lookout for that. And I'll actually remind myself to put the link for that podcast so that you guys can get a little bit more of her. And you'll also be seeing her back on Mom Brain as well. So it was really, really nice to have you here. And I'm glad we finally got our schedules to coincide.
yeah, me too.
um, let everybody know where they can find you on social media or if you have a website that you want to.
Yeah. So my website is chaosperformancefitness.com. You can also find me on Instagram at chaos.performance.fitness. And I'm also on Facebook under Karlynn.Alexandria. It's a weird story behind that. My maiden name is Only. Facebook didn't think that was a real last name, so they wouldn't let me use my last name. So it's Karlynn.Alexandria. And you can, see my kids and me and doing just everyday stuff.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for being here, and we will see you again soon.
All right. Bye. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye. Check us out on YouTube, ask questions, get information, and more at Just the Who Us Podcast.